Along the coast, there are redwoods. It's towering trees that grow to incredible heights. The winds from the ocean come through, the storms come through with strong winds. But these things don't fall, they don't get blown over. And the reason that they are not destroyed by those powerful winds is because underneath the surface, underneath the ground, all of their roots are locked together. And in that locking together, they create a platform that resists any winds that may come their way. In Buddhism, we talk about taking refuge in the Sangha. And a lot of people think that that's just surface stuff. You know, we'll take refuge. We'll get our Sangha people to help us get something to eat or help us get a place to live or something. And that's probably part of a spiritual community for sure. But we're connected underneath by spirit. That's where we take refuge, underneath. In our meditation practice, how we think about each other, how we support each other, how we approach life. If we're connected underneath by spirit, and we realize that connection, that we're all one here, that we're not separate, and that it is love, actually, that binds everything together. I talk a lot about love. A lot of people have ideas about love. I understand that it's kind of confusing. We tend to associate love as some sort of a passionate thing like you have when you fall in love with somebody. Oh, you know. I miss those days. I do. But that's part of love, but that's not the love I'm talking about. I'm talking about an unconditional love. An unconditional love that loves everything. It's unconditional. And it's not necessarily emotional, but what it is, it's an alignment with the Tao. It's an alignment with the truth, with the Dharma. Hang in here with me. This is a good story. Okay. The love that I'm talking about is not necessarily emotional at all. It's more of a peace, of a recognition that everything is connected and that everything is perfect. And as I go through life and I am buffeted by the winds of change, by the thoughts and feelings of everyone around me, I'm buffeted by psychic energies, I'm buffeted by occult forces, I'm buffeted by, you know, attachments to people that I love and my parents and everything, and I have to be a certain way to please them and to get their approval, and I want their approval, so I will sacrifice my own, you know, it goes on and on. There's more to this love than that. I notice sometimes when we're meditating together, some of you have a hard time opening your heart. And I understand that. This is where love is, but this is where human love is. Right here is where human love is, right here and below. It's below. From heart down is human love. It's romantic love. It's the love you have for your little doggy. It's the love you have for people and things and the planet. It's a beautiful love, but it's transitory love. It's love that has conditions. I'll love you as long as you don't cheat on me or lie to me or beat me up. I'll love you as long as you treat me with respect. And to a degree, that kind of love is necessary to maintain a healthy relationship. But when I talk about the unconditional love, I'm going up a notch. I'm going up a notch that goes beyond conditions. I move into the oneness of all life. I realize that everything is just God. There's nothing but God. And God doesn't necessarily have a personality. He certainly doesn't have a hand like I have. We want to be, we want to behave in the eyes of, so we can please the eyes of God. Well, it's not like that. This is much more profound. Oneness includes everything and everyone. It includes Buddha and Jesus and all of the spiritual teachers and masters that you can think of. It includes all the gods and goddesses. It also includes all the demons, all the devils, all the Satans. It includes the good and the bad. It is unconditional love expressing itself through each one of us. And what we do with that love depends upon where we're at. If we're angry, then that love will be expressed as anger. If you're jealous, then that love will be expressed as jealousy. It's a perversion of the unity. Anger and jealousy are what happens when you move into duality. When there's something here and something there that you don't like. There's a deeper love. There's an unconditional love. When I was growing up, I grew up in a church where they really believed in saving souls. Believed that if you took anyone to Christ, then Christ would, by the loving and compassionate energy and the power of Christ, that their soul would be saved. And they would start living a different life, a redeemed life, a sanctified life. And I would watch this growing up. And I would watch people come into the church and they were having a bad time. And the minister would give an altar call. And every time he gave an altar call, he would build up to it. How's life treating you? This is his altar call. How's life treating you? Are you down? Are you about to give up? Everything just going bad for you right now? Have you lost hope? Have you been rejected by everyone that's loved you? Are you lost and you don't know what to do? You have no purpose? Then come down to the altar and give your heart to Jesus and surrender to Spirit. And so people would. They would feel those, they would go down to the altar and they would focus on Christ, on that energy, and they would surrender to that energy. And they would enter into light and into love and into an experience. This is universal. Anyone that's had this, an experience of complete and unconditional and magical love. And the only guilt that comes out of that experience is your ego realizing just how far you've fallen short of the glory of your true nature. And then the atrocities would happen. They would get up off of the altar where they just had this amazing experience. And the doctrine and the rituals and everything would be laid upon them. You're a Christian now, you can't cuss anymore, you can't drink, you can't do this, you can't. They would just lay out the whole things that you couldn't do as a Christian. And none of the things they laid out had anything to do with the experience that that individual just had. And I'm thinking along the lines of an advanced soul now, which all of you, if you're watching this, you're an advanced soul. You would be interested otherwise. You'd be watching, I don't know, a football game or something. So as an advanced soul, we're going back to revisit that moment of redemption, that moment where we came before Spirit and just opened our heart and gave everything to God. So we're going to do this without laying a lot of stuff on you. Comes from a oneness point of view. This comes from a recognition that we are engrossed in the Maya here. We're walking around, we're having a hard time. The world is very violent and scary at times. And sometimes you feel very lonely. And that's the time we need to pull together, sink into our refuge in the Dharma, which is the teaching, but mainly take our refuge into the Buddha, which is our spiritual nature. These are just words. You could say Christ and God if you want. I don't care. Words are words. The infinite doesn't speak a language. We speak languages. The infinite doesn't need it. So, in a strange way, I never would have thought I'd have done this. In a strange way, we're going to see about salvation today. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, well, yeah, I am. I'm trying to get you to open up a little bit here. So we're going to have a Buddhist salvation, according to Shiva. So we'll start with the beginning of the altar call, remember? And just ask yourself, are you feeling lonely? Do you have any direction in your life? Are you afraid, frightened about what's going on and what's coming down, what you feel is coming down? Is your life in tatters? That no matter what you do, it's not working? So if any of this is true, I would like you now, since it's just me and you, and nobody will know, I'd like for you to just close your eyes. Or if you want, you can look at me. But I want you to focus on your higher self. And open your heart and surrender to Spirit. Admit in your ego that you made a mess of things. And now you're seeking a higher connection. And then sink into that. When you feel that energy come, surrender to it. Don't hold back. Let go. Take a breath. Underneath, we're all connected. We're connected to each other. And yet we go a little deeper. We're connected to everyone on the earth, and we're connected to the earth, and we are connected to the universe. But each one of us is taking our own point of view as if everyone else believes and sees the same thing that we do. So we fall into duality, and then we start hurting each other. We start judging each other. We start saying things about somebody that doesn't, maybe it can be a little thing. Maybe they have a little accent that you make fun of, or maybe they stutter and you make fun of it. Or maybe you just don't like them because they're fat and old and bald and wear glasses. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's none of the above. Can you surrender to spirit? Have you even tried it in your meditation? Have you tried to just surrender completely to spirit? Letting go of everything. I've talked about the meditation, the awakening spirit experience I had in Scotland a few years back. It was a magical moment on the Isle of Skye in one of my teacher's monks' ashram he's building there. And as I looked out on this inlet of water, as the moon set and the sun rose at the same moment, a full moon setting, the sun rising, I slipped into spirit. And before me on an altar was this flame. And as I stood before the flame, I got very clearly that there was nothing that I should keep between me and my spirit, my higher self. Nothing I should have between me and God. So the first things that came up that I put on that were, easy things like my occupation, things like that, my my friends, my enemies. And then I started coming down to things that I loved. My little dog, put him on the altar. My friends, lovers, put them on the jar. And I talk to lovers past tense. Okay. When it came to my family, was I going to allow my family to be more important than spirit? And with great difficulty, one by one, I put both my brothers, my mother, my father, my two sons on the altar, burned them up. Then I got down to me. What was I hanging on to still? And I realized I was hanging on to the idea of being a spiritual teacher. My whole life, this is all I wanted to do, was to do what I'm doing now. This is what I came here to do. And I realized that if in my doing of this, if that was getting in the way of enlightenment, then it too had to go on the altar, along with all of my students who I held in my heart, still do to this day, put them on the altar, burned it up. And the last thing to burn up was sacrilegious. I burned my teacher. There was nothing between me and God. And then I threw myself on the altar and I burned up. When I came back, my dog was still here. My sons were still alive. My friends were still around. I didn't kill anybody physically that I know of, but in my heart, I had already let it go. From that moment to this moment, there's one thing that's been important to me, and that's been the spirit. I surrendered to spirit completely. What are you hanging on to that's keeping you from surrendering to spirit? When we have the altar call and you feel these feelings of desperation and fear and anxiety and troubles, what's preventing you from opening up your heart to spirit, from completely surrendering to God? It's called being redeemed. It's called letting go of all of your sin, all of these attachments, letting go of your sins to become purified under the blood of Christ. Now, the blood of Christ is the Christ of the experience of Christ consciousness. It's not a physical blood. It's an energy, just like when they say heaven is made of gold, it's not made of a metal. It's made of the gold you see many times when we meditate. It's a state of consciousness. Everything is a state of consciousness. And we create our consciousness every moment of every day. And our consciousness is limited by those things that stand between us and enlightenment. My teacher said enlightenment was easy. All you have to do is want it more than anything. My goodness, there are a lot of things, huh? A lot of things you're hanging on to. Things about how the way things are supposed to work. Should I call that a dogma? Well, if the shoe fits. I'm coming from enlightenment. And I'm waiting for you to wake up. You can do it. You just have to take time to surrender completely to spirit. And anything that comes up between you and God, you throw it on the altar and burn it up. I want nothing but the divine light. I want nothing but the experience of enlightenment. While I'm still in this body, my only purpose is to spread the Dharma. That's the only reason I'm here now. And as long as I can, I will remain. And when the body gets so that I can't, then I will leave and come back. Because why not? It's a wonderful game here. You come in, you struggle, the blind leading the blind, and in all of this, there is a process of awakening. There is a process of attaining enlightenment in this life, and you can do it. All it means is that you just have to want it more than anything. And look at your attachments. I wrote a book once, I self-published it. I even drew the cover of, I should go in and get it right now, but I won't bore you with that one. But on the cover, I drew this cartoon figure of this guy. He was at the altar and he was praying. And he was very sincere. And he says, "Oh, dear God, please help me become enlightened, just so long as there's no radical changes or embarrassing things that would come about as a result. You want enlightenment as long as it's comfortable. You want enlightenment as it's easy. It's something you can do." We all want enlightenment. You just have to want it more. And one of the best ways you can find enlightenment, in my experience, is when you start helping others to awaken by teaching meditation or mindfulness, or maybe doing some sort of counseling where you get people to forgive themselves and to forgive others. to untie the knots that people wrap themselves into and make this life so incredibly hard for themselves and for others. We're moving into a new age. Next weekend, on this Sunday meditation, I will be celebrating the end of the Piscean age, the last day of the Piscean age. On Monday, a week from tomorrow, on the 21st, at 7 o'clock, I'll have a meditation here again, where we will celebrate the Aquarian age. And we'll talk about that as it gets a little closer. So we're going through some wonderful times now, and I've got to tell you, I want every one of you to become enlightened. You already are, you just don't recognize it. It's so frustrating for me. Surrender. Surrender everything to God. Lock yourself in your bedroom, beat your pillow, roll on the floor, speak in other tongues. I don't care what you do. You keep fighting and fighting until you finally fought enough and let go and surrender into spirit with no withholds. Not caring what anybody else says or thinks as you're doing it. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to stand in the middle of a street and go into samadhi? I am. I do it a lot. That's one thing that I have learned to do, is surrender to spirit. And I'm hoping that as you watch me surrender to spirit, that you kind of get it, that you can do it too. Like this. So it's a strange subject today. Seeking your salvation, the salvation of your soul. The teachings are that as you perfect yourself, you start cleaning your life up. If you stole something from someone, return it. Ask for forgiveness and pay them extra money so that they can let it go. If you've hurt somebody, apologize. If somebody's hurt you, forgive them. Why would you want to hang on to those thoughts and feelings? They're keeping you from enlightenment. Resentment of others, judging others as to how terrible they are or what they are. Don't you recognize that everything is God? Surrender yourself into spirit. Throw yourself into your bedroom. I don't care. Scream and yell. Beat your pillow. Cry. Do it until your heart is full of love. And you say, how can that be? I'm just saying it, as you surrender to spirit, your heart will be full of love. You'll know it when it happens. And the reason that you haven't attained it to this point is most likely because you haven't surrendered completely. You're hanging on to your angers. You're hanging on to your fears. You're hanging on to what other people might think. Can you put it all on the altar and burn it up? And I think you can. So I didn't mean this as something, as a talk to put you down. I'm trying to encourage you to discover the divinity that's within your own heart. A love that will allow you to work in this world in a beautiful way. known as bodhisattva. And if you don't know what bodhisattva is, look it up. And so, my friends, have a good week. Tomorrow is going to be a crazy day and a wonderful day. It's a day of awakening, a day of the dissolution. And what you're seeing in the coming months is a dissolution of the old. What may appear as really radical and far out and even dangerous at times is really just the passing of the old. People hanging on to the old way of being, and as a result, they're creating chaos around themselves, and we don't have to participate in it. Move through it. So, yeah, surrender. Surrendering is a good thing. Good luck on your meditation this week. If you need to talk to me, something's coming up, then I'm available. Okay? And I'll see you next Sunday at 5. And then mark your calendar for Monday night, 7 o'clock. It's going to be amazing. A lot of wonderful things are happening right now. So many beautiful people I'm coming in contact with. I'm seeing people from every walk of life that are waking up. So let's take refuge in our Sangha, in that part that connects us together underneath, so that when these winds come, we're steady. Let's take refuge in the Dharma, what we know to be the truth. The Dharma for this week is to surrender completely to spirit. No withholds, no attachments. Letting go of everything. Everything. And take refuge in the Buddha. Have a good week and good luck. Namaste.